You have probably seen and said a lot of active sentences before. For example, I play football. You eat pizza. We go to sleep. To identify an active sentence, look for the subject in the sentence. The subject is the person or thing doing or performing the action. For example, in the sentence, I stroke the dog, the person doing the action is me, so I. I stroke the dog, so I am the subject. An active sentence looks like this. Subject plus verb. I stroke. And in this example, I want to say what I stroke, which is the dog. This is called an object. The object receives the action. Let's see how this example looks in a passive sentence. The dog is stroked by me. If we compare this to our active sentence, the subject, me, is now at the end of the sentence. Now, it is not important who strokes the dog, but instead, what happens to the dog. In the active sentence, the dog was the object. But in our passive sentence, the important part of the sentence is now the dog, so it goes at the beginning of the sentence. You can see that there are now two verbs in the sentence. Is, which comes from the verb to be, and stroked, which is the past participle of the verb to stroke. This is because of how we form passive sentences. We form a passive sentence by starting with the subject. Then we conjugate the verb to be depending on which tense we are speaking in. Finally, we add a verb in its past participle form. So just as you saw in the example, the dog is being stroked. As I said, we can change which tense we are talking in by conjugating the verb to be differently. I want to tell you a present tense sentence. I want to tell you that in general, the dog in my house is stroked because every day I stroke him and my whole family likes stroking this dog. So, the dog is stroked. Next, I want to tell you a present continuous passive sentence. Now, I want to tell you that the dog is being stroked. It's something that is happening right now to the dog. Finally, I want to say a past tense passive sentence. Remember what happened just a moment ago. The dog was stroked. So, when is it likely that we will hear passive voice? We will hear it when the actor isn't clear. For example, your flight is delayed. The flight is delayed, but no one in particular is responsible for this happening. Or at least we don't know who delayed it or why. We will also see the passive voice used when historical events are being talked about, but the event is being emphasized rather than the actor. For example, aeroplanes were invented by the Wright brothers. In this sentence, we are focusing more on the fact that aeroplanes were invented rather than focusing on the fact that the Wright brothers invented aeroplanes. So now that you've heard all about passive voice, why don't you try exercises 8A, 8B and 8C?